Hello guys, I'm Abhishek, your Agile coach on YouTube. Welcome today. Today we will be discussing about estimation using planning focus. Why does it matter the most? Because in my 18 years of experience working as an Agile coach, I have rarely seen Agile team using estimation consistently and effectively. So today we will be exploring how to use planning focus in the right way, the mindset shift it requires, and the traps to avoid. So let's start with the basic. What is a story point? A story point is simply a number we give to a user story to show how big or difficult or small it feels compared to other. In real life scenario, in story point estimation, in a sprint planning, say, hey, at the time, let's refine the story. After that, we give three story points. This is five story point. This is eight story point. The product owner will say, how many days? And somebody say, I think it's a 3 days. A five story point will take around 6 days. Eight story point will take maybe 1 week. If these type of discussion is happening, if it is happening, it means you are not using your estimation correctly. Because the only factor which running in all minds is only the time. 3 days, 5 days, 1 week. These are what? These are unit of time, days. But story point is not about that. It's not about hours. It's not about days. It's about effort, complexity, uncertainty. Right? So you have to think because just using the story point for days, it's a project management mindset. You want to control the time, 3 days, 5 days. That used to happen in the project management mindset. Everybody talk about the days, right? Nobody talk about the effort, the complexity, the uncertainty, the risk it requires to complete. So, for an example, if any story feels small, it might be one story point. If another feels five times bigger, it might be five story point. So, in short, story point is a relative estimation, not an absolute estimation. Let me share a deck. Everybody is well aware of Fibonacci series. I'm expecting 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 100. So basically, we pick stories from these. Let's move to what is the story point estimation. Suppose we there are three types of tasks or the stories. Let's, I have taken the example of the household course, right? So these three tasks are there. Holding a basket of clothes, cooking dinner for four, cleaning entire house. So we have to give a story point based on complexity, uncertainty, risk, effort. So as a family, somebody say, hey, folding a basket of clothes is not good, not a tedious task. Let's give it to. Then we discuss cooking dinner for four is, I think two times more effort, more complex. Right. Let's give it five. Cleaning entire house. Oh my God, it's really tough. Oh, I'm not going to do it. It's tough. Everybody is saying, hey, it's you. Let's give it eight, right? It's so. Was it fine? 8 plus 5 plus 2, 15, right? Should we start the sprint? No, because the rationale behind giving a story point estimation is to have a discussion. If I'm giving 8 story points on cleaning entire house, suppose, then my wife will can say that, hey, we have a Dyson which can clean or which can, clean our floor. It will not take more than days. Sorry, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? We have an automatic robot which can automatically clean. So what I will say, hey, I think it seems not so much complex. Initially, I was feeling it was a more complex, but since we have a tools, so I will say, hey, it's not 8 story point for me. It's five because the complexity has been reduced. All those factors I was not taking into the account. Like that, in the development project, there is a need to discussion. When you do a story point estimation using a planning purpose, if somebody is saying eight is story point, everybody is saying, hey, let's have a eight. Okay, fine. It's five. Let's have a five. Right. So usually it happens to avoid nobody, want to waste their time in discussion. Just put the story point and start working and kick off the sprint. But it should not happen. If it is a two story point, three story point stories, it's fine. But if it is five, eight, 13, right? Always think to discuss because if any story is eight for here, if it is a eight, there is a complex thing. So what happens if there is a complex? Maybe someone in a team can reduce the complexity. He has done those type of work in past, or he knows what are the tools or what are the approach it requires to complete those type of work. Right? So it's always better because on discussion, the complexity is reduced, the uncertainty is reduced because the idea of working in a Scrum team is to reduce the uncertainty because we have to deliver anything shippable work in 2 weeks time. How we can do only when everything is certain and we have removed the uncertainty and we have removed the complexity. So the idea of story point estimation using planning poker is to not just give the story point but to reduce the uncertainty and complexity. So this is the real rationale behind the story point estimation. So I will suggest anyone who is working as a scrum master, if you are a product owner or if you are a developer, right? Always say what you think rather than, I think here's a three story point. Let's give it three or let's give it five. If it's more, give it. If it's less, give that a story point. Initiate discussion. Then only you will come to know what is hidden. Because every person thinks their work in a different mindset. So it's always important. Now, so the crux is discussion, discussion, discussion. Okay. Now I will discuss some of the points from the deck, like planning token guidelines for effective estimation. Encourage open team discussion before assigning point to build shared understanding. Discuss what is this, like for an example, and maybe, cleaning entire house, whether it includes garage also or just house, whether it include roof also. Because, it changes. The estimation will change. The number of things it includes. So it's always better to have a, discussion. Second, story point are relative and should evolve as a team there. I mean, it's a relative. Over here, we can see cooking dinner for four is five. Cleaning entire house is eight. Suppose we have given cooking, that's what, it's a relative thing. It's not absolute. The what is difference between relative and absolute? Right now, cooking dinner for four is five story point. Entire cleaning entire house is suppose we say, hey, it's a eight story point. But maybe next time cooking dinner for four for us maybe three story point because it's a relative. Because maybe I know if they are, usually how to prepare Chinese or pizza or anything. We know just bring the base, prepare. So maybe next time it will not take more time, right? So there is nothing absolute in the story point estimation using for a team using a planning purpose because think complexity reduces from the time to time. Maybe in cleaning entire house for the first time it will take say 8 hours, right? By using those Roomba and all those gadgets. Maybe you think that hey, we should start from the top floor, then the first, second floor, again, then the first floor, like that. Maybe then you change the approach. Then you will say, hey, it will take lesser time. So maybe last month you took eight story point, but this month the same work, the same work. You say it's five because I know. There is no need to, uh, clean from, uh, ground to top road. It's easier to, clean from top to ground. So it's always a relative rather than absolute. If a story is too big, split it. If it is a 13 story point, 20 story point, split the user story. If it's a big, you know, bungalow, 10 BHK, right? It's always difficult. Whether it will take 16 hours or 22 hours, you don't know. So better to, break those into floor wise and you assign those floor to different people. So it will take, hey, I think per floor it will take 2 hours, right? So it's always better to, split the user story. Splitting means, you have reduced the complexity and uncertainty, right? Uncertainty is a very important thing. Nobody talk about that. When you do any work, how to make more certain, right? Rather than at the last day you say, hey, it's not going to, release in the production. So it's always better to, make it certain and remove uncertainty. Another one is spike. Spike means any R&D in a simpler form. If anything, the requirement is not clear, right? Suppose you are making a cooking dinner for four, right? But what? How you want to give estimate? Have you discussed about which are the items for the dinner? Is it soup? Or it's a 5 course meal? Or it's a 10 course meal? Or it's a red buffet? What? If it is not clear, you should take a R&D. Over here, you should talk. Who is coming? Whether he cooking for whom? Is for there is a 4 children of your child friends who is coming, or if your grandparents, or if your friends, or if you have a booze party, right? So requirement changes, right? So if it is not clear, first have a R&D. Over here in the agile, world, you called it a spike. First create a spike. Who is coming? What are the items need to be prepared? Which are the 4 people? What are their age, right? On the basis of that, and then you can estimate. Okay. Facilitate equal participant to avoid bias. Yeah, it's also very important because in the Scrum team, you will say somebody is having 15 years of experience, somebody having 4 years of experience. So mostly the senior guy will, mostly drive the estimation. It should not happen, or not sing. Well, anybody who is, older in the team drives the estimation. So that is not the correct way. The correct new, if I am feeling this is new, I have never worked, I've done this work, let me give the estimation because higher estimation, because the idea is to reduce the complexity and uncertainty for me, right? Because as a team, I think that particular type of work should be simpler for each developer or person, not just one or two. Right? And the last one is uh, using planning poker card to reveal estimates simultaneously. Sometimes, the experience goes, hey, it is a story pointer for me. Everybody will say, hey, he's a senior guy. He's saying 8 story point. I was thinking 5, but I say it's 8, right? Because he is the most senior guy. So what happened? Discussion never happened. So it's always better that everybody shows their cards simultaneously. That nobody get drive from anybody can be drive from the senior person or the most knowledgeable person because the idea or the think or the most thing maybe he must be visualizing what you must junior person can visualize. So it's always better to have discussion rather than one person is driving the estimation. Now let's move to the yeah exercise. Common anti-pattern in a story point estimation. Converting story point estimation into hours. If you are doing this, you are just defeating the purpose of relative sizing, right? It's a waterfall mindset. It's you are just doing agile. You are just using the agile practices, but you are not able to think from the complexity and uncertainty. The motive is not to reduce the uncertainty. The motive is to just give the time factor to show to the management. It can be completed in 3 days or it can be completed in 5 days. Maybe it can be completed in one day while discussion, right? So it's always important to not to give only, time. Second is manager assigning points. Yeah, sometimes, he is a tech manager or, he's also part of this company. He say, I think it's a 5 story point. It's a 2 story point. It's a 1 story points. It's a 8 story point, right? But he is not developing. So in Agile, anyone who is working can only give the story point. Not any manager, scrum master, product owner, architect, right? Only the developers who is working because at the end they are going to work. But if they are giving higher story points, it's maybe a technical manager there, architect is there. He can convince, and he can reduce the uncertainty and and make it more simpler for the developer. And then he can reduce the story point from 8 to 5 or 3. But he should not, senior guy or manager or architect should not enforce the team to give story point. Include unrelated work like meeting. Sometimes, you include meeting also in your stories. That you should not include that, right? If you talk about the time, right? If there is a meeting or anything or party, right? Or not party, I will say it meeting. So you should not include while estimating your task for the time. Fourth is estimating vague or undefined story lead to inaccurate sizing. Yeah, that example I have already taken. Like if the requirement is just vague, like cooking dinner for four, like what, babies, toddlers, young person, party, grandparents, who are the four, or you have a baby also, grandparents also, you know, young couple also. Definitely there are four, but you have to prepare four different cuisine which can cater to four different cases. So if you will not discuss and you just estimate, definitely you are not going to complete all your, within the time period. Now let's move to another mindset shift. Yeah. What is the mindset shift? Focus on collaboration learning rather than precise prediction. The focus should be not 3 days. Here's story point. No, the focus should be collaboration. If as an experienced developer, something is 8 for me, or say something is 3 story point for me, and I know he is a um, guy who is having lesser experience or who is new to this team, right? He is giving 8 story point. The focus should be collaboration. That let's do a pair programming. Let let us make his 8 to 5 in this sprint, and maybe from next sprint he will say this is 3 for me as well, right? So it should be the more collaborative rather than I'm doing this work. This is 3 story points. You are doing this work. He is new. If he will do his work, it is 8 story points for me. Again, I'm going to share one example, like in one of the team, the developer was saying, hey, since he is a new, so I have played 8 story point because he will be working on that user story. It should not happen that, right? Because there is no collaboration thing is happening. You are just trying to showcase, but the more story point, the more the productivity. Again, it's for the management also that it doesn't happen. Sometimes your team is delivering, 100 story point, but the outcome is maybe not more. So you have to think how many story point, what is the actual story point, what it defines. So it's very important. Another is embrace uncertainty as inheritance. Estimates are forecast, not commitments. Again, these are estimates. This can't be forecast, right? That it will happen. So usually there is an approach when you give a story point estimation for say 10 stories. So at the end of the sprint, you go to all the stories to see whether all the estimation which you have given was correctly or not. Maybe sometimes, you have given 8 story points when you started working. You say that, hey, it was not eight story point for me. It was five for me. It was simple. Although at the planning, I have not thought, right? So how to enable that thought before the sprint planning, or sometimes the vice versa. You say five story point, but when you started working, it say it's a huge amount of work. So you have to improve the planning, right? And use them. That is a value relative sizing over absolute time tracking. Again, it's the same. If I think it's more difficult in terms of complexity, uncertainty, and effort, then I will give twice the number, right? Rather than time. It's 2 days, 2 story point, 5 days, 5 story point. Again, encourage transparency and continuous improvement through regular refinement. Again, we should have a regular refinement. You know, if everything is transparent, then we can give a proper estimation. The last point is estimation is a dynamic process, supporting uplifting planning, not a contract. Again, it's a dynamic process. Anything, if I'm giving five story point and same time of work is coming in, next system, maybe three story point for me. Again, it's a dynamic process. Things changes. If the new technology have adopted our company, maybe the same type of work is taking higher time. The complexity increases, the story point increases. So it's a dynamic process. So summary takeaway for front end. Again, story points measure relative effort, complexity, and uncertainty, not ours. Planning poker foster team collaboration and shared understanding. Right? Planning poker is not just to get point. If the collaboration is not happening, we are not doing the correct way. Split larger stories than unclear. If it isn't clear, if you have a 20-story building that need to be cleaned, right? You can't give estimate. You split per floor, and then you can say on cleaning one floor, for two-person, it will take 8 hours. So approximately, 160 hours it will take, right? So splitting a user story always. Avoid anti-patterns that determine estimation, right? Like time, you should not focus on that always the time. So, there should be team trust. If I'm giving five-story point or eight-story point, that should be genuine, right? And there should be discussion while discussing the story point. And the wider mindset focus on learning and adaptation for continuous improvement. It means for me it was a five-story point, but next time, I know how to use my tool effectively. So next time I will say it's a three-story point and keep on learning and adapting things so that I can reduce my complexity and certainty. So yeah, this was the crux of agile planning, or say while agile estimation while planning poker. So again, yeah, thank you very much for watching this agile estimation session. If this videos help you or your team to plan smarter and deliver better, here's a simple way to thank. So I've shared your again your contribution. If you want to support the channel directly, I just scan the QR code on the screen. Your contribution, big or small, keeps this tutorial free and fuel more practical, agile content for teams like me. If you can't contribute right now, no worries. A like, a comment, and share, subscribe go a long way too. So thanks for learning with me, and let's keep building better teams together. Thank you. Goodbye, and please wait for my next video. Thank you.